What's good, everyone? Magic Bard here for a Motion Graphics Monday. Just came up with that one today. I think what we're going to start doing is every Monday I'm going to hit you with some cool motion graphics you guys can learn. And on this one I'm going to keep it basic, and we'll start to kind of ramp it up, get more advanced with the stuff later on. But on this one, I'm going to show you guys how to do some kinetic typography like what you see on the screen. A lot of people use this on lyric videos that you see on YouTube, so it's pretty useful. You've probably seen it on a lot of Facebook ads and that kind of stuff. I think it's a great little effect that you can have in your arsenal as a visual effects artist. So yeah, guys, if you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can learn epic visual effects every week. And with that being said, let's get into the tutorial. Alright, so first things first, what I'm going to do is open up a new composition, or let's just say create a new composition, and we'll call it Kinetic Text. 1920 by 1080 looks good. We'll just round it out to 8 seconds long. And cool. So now we've got our composition ready to go. And first things first, let's kind of get our text out there onto the composition. So click on our text button and let's just go with typography. And the font I'm using is called TYPOGRAPH Pro. It's a free download, and I'll put that link in the description. I hope I remember to do that at the end of the tutorial. If I don't, leave a comment, tell me to do that. So typography right here, and press Control or Command D to duplicate it. And what we'll do is kind of scale this up, make it big. That looks about good to me. Command D again, V, THE, scale it down, kind of fit it right in there. Command D to create another word, way, and actually I'm gonna try something else with this one, so I'll take this, kind of scale it down a bit and squish it. I don't know, we're messing around on this one. We're trying new things, right? Yeah, whatever, Bard. Alright, so typography is the way, and let's just create another one. Is the way to go, or to live. Okay, so you've noticed that, oops, is the way to live, that all of my letters are capitalized, and how you guys can do that is inside of your character window. Let's see, if I drag this down, you can see the all caps button right here. You can also do, they call it small caps, but I think it's called type cap or something. There's an actual name for it where it does capital letters all throughout, but makes the first letter a little bit larger than the others, right? So I actually want it to be all caps. So I'll just highlight that, all caps it. Alright, and you guys can mess around with these and play around with those later. But what we've got right here is typography is the way to live. And what I'm going to do is select them all and kind of get it more in the center. Okay, now that we're all pretty much centered up where we want to go, this is going to be our mark. So this is where we want all of our text to land at the very end. So let's kind of zoom in here a bit. And what we're going to do is start to animate the text, or create the kinetic part of our typography. So we'll start with our very first word, typography, and click the S to open up our scale. And let's start by, I'll say 14 frames, or actually let's make it 12 frames is how long we'll do our scale animation. So keyframe the scale, and bring your playhead to the very beginning and just bring it down to 0%. So what's going to happen here is it's going to grow from 0 to 100. Now you see it kind of growing from the bottom left corner, and that's not what we want. We want it to grow from the center. So what you got to do is use your anchor point tool and move this anchor point guy to the center. Okay, and this is very important. So wherever your anchor point is, that's where your scale growth is going to happen from. So now it's going to scale down there in the middle. Okay, so cool. We're looking good here. Now another thing we want to do is easy ease this. So you can right click on a keyframe and you can ease in, and then on this keyframe you can ease out. Okay, or what you can do is select both keyframes and then just go easy ease. And then what we're going to do is go to our graph editor tool, or graph editor look, and now you can start messing around with your easy ease. So what you can see is it kind of eases in, eases out right here, right? So or actually eases out, eases in. Now another thing what we can do is mess around with the keyframes by dragging these guys over, and now what that does, it will grow really quickly and then slow down at the end. So let's kind of preview that just so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So it'll speed up in the very beginning, right up here, and then slow down. Okay? And I like that look. This is all in your editing, right? So whatever kind of look you guys are trying to get, just kind of mess around in the graph editor, drag these guys over, drag them up and down, see what you like the most, and go with that. But this is kind of the look that I like. I think it's going a bit fast, so I am going to drag it out to 14 frames. And we've got our typography. Cool. Now let's go with the is. And what we're going to do with this one is press the P button, and we're going to mess around with the position. So let's keyframe the position of our ending point where we want it to end. And remember, let's bring our anchor point over here to the corner for now, just to for good practice. You know, either on the corner or in the middle of your text is good. And then what we're going to do is drag the playhead to the very beginning, and let's just move the x-axis by click holding and dragging to the left a bit, and that'll be good. So it'll come in like that. We can go a little bit more. And then another thing we're going to do is press T. We're going to keyframe the opacity by clicking on stopwatch right there, bring it over here and go to 0%. So now by pressing U, you can see the position and opacity keyframes that we have. And what we're going to do is select both of them, go to keyframe assistance and easy ease, and you guys guessed it, we're going to do the same thing that we did with our typography scale keyframes to our is keyframes. So just take our bad boy over here, drag it to the left, and do the same thing with our opacity. And let's see what we've got. Kind of preview this, and it'll speed up, slow down right in there. Cool. And we've got the opacity working with us as well. Now we're going to do the same sort of thing with the and way. Let me drag that guy over here. So the and way. So you can select both of them this time. Press the position, or P for position, and keyframe that. Bring your playhead to the very beginning, and we're going to mess with the Y axis now by dragging it up. Okay? So now these guys are going to come down like that, and then press T to do our opacity, and we're going to do the same thing, 100% at our mark and 0% at the beginning. Okay, so these guys are going to do the kind of the same thing as the is, except come from the top to the bottom. So let's, with both these layers selected, press the U and select both keyframes, and let's easy ease them. And we're going to do the same thing we did with our other keyframes. So just take our keyframes and let's kind of make our hill that we have already done. and you guys can, as I said before, mess around with this and get a feel for what your look is, and you can create some cool stuff. So I like to be consistent on this as of now, and what we've got here is a simple animation of typography is the way, and now we're going to try something different with to live. So we're going to do a scale effect, but I'm going to show you guys something different. So before we did scale inside of our transform parameter, on this one we're going to go into text and see where it says animate. Just click on this little circle triangle thing and click on scale. So we're going to animate the scale text. What that's going to do is scale the text. So the characters are now scaling, as opposed to typography, the whole word scales up like that, right? So this is just a different way of how you can scale your text. And it's cool because the animate feature inside of text is made specifically for text. So when you're doing typography, it's good to get used to animating your text parameters. So let's kind of try this one out. So let's scale that at 100 at our mark, come down to 0. And what we're going to do is open up our range selector and then open up our advanced. And this is where things can get really fun. What I would do is just kind of mess around with this, check it out, and you can really have a lot of fun with this one by scaling your words, the lines that you're in. This is only one line, so you're not going to see much of a difference. And you can also scale the shape of it. So if you were to do something like a triangle, here, let's open that up. It will kind of open up like a pyramid. So let's see what that looks like. So you can see it kind of go in like that. So on this one, we're going to scale it up kind of like a upside down pyramid action on the to live. But what I also want to do is scale our transformation, our transform parameter. And so scale it there down to 0%. And what's going to happen here is we're going to have two kind of scales going on, right? Okay, once again, I forgot to move our anchor point over to the middle where we want our scale to happen. So here we go. Boom, cool. Just adds a little bit of different stuff going on here. And let's animate our keyframes the same way we've been doing with the other words, by easing them and going into our graph editor and fixing it up a bit. Cool. Okay, so now we've got our basic animation done with our words and kind of how we want them to be revealed in our video. So if you're doing like a lyrical video, your music will be down here in another layer and you'll be matching up the words to the music. But for this tutorial, I just kind of want to show you how to animate words and get them onto the screen. So what we've got here is, now let's say you want to have it come up as typography first, then is, then the way to live. So what we're going to do is just move our layers out, and they'll all kind of reveal at their own time. So typography comes out, 14 frames, give it a beat or so, boom, maybe less. And then is, typography is, and let me kind of zoom out here. I'm just pressing the minus and plus sign to zoom out, zoom in. Is the way to live. All right, cool. That works for me. And so we've got them all revealing at different times is the way to live. Now what I'm going to do is let's add a background. So layer new, solid, you know, any color you want. I'll just go with red, and then I'll add a gradient to that. So go over here to your effects and presets, type in gradient, and we'll do a gradient ramp. Drag that onto your solid. Let's do a radial ramp, and I'm going to start it off with kind of a darker red, end it with a blue. And you'll kind of get this purple hue. So let's get the start of our ramp in the center, which is 960 by 540 if you're working on 1920 by 1080 composition, and then kind of zoom out here, and then you could drag this guy out to about right there. Looks good. Let's fit it back in, and that's our composition. Cool, that works. I'll change the color of the text here in a second. Let's take all of our text, so select it all, go to layer, and we are going to pre-compose this. Cool. Let's just call this text for now. Press OK. Looking good. And then go into your effects and presets, type in fill, and drag that over onto your text, and let's make it white. Okay, so now it's kind of popping out there. We're looking good so far. Now let's create a 3D layer, and we'll add a shadow. So if you want to do a really quick and easy shadow, just go into your effects and presets, type in drop shadow, and drag that onto your text layer, and that will create a subtle shadow that is super simple, drag and drop situation, right? And you can kind of play around with the distance and softness and that kind of stuff. Or we can create a 3D shadow. So I'm going to take this and delete it. And let's see what a 3D shadow will look like. Go into layer, new, solid, and we'll go with a white solid. Drag that to the bottom of your text. And let's turn our 3D layers on for both your text and white solid. And with your white solid selected, press W, which will open up your rotation tool, this guy right here, and hold down the shift key, click on the X axis, and make it totally perpendicular, okay? Or parallel to the ground. Or essentially this is going to be our ground. So just parallel or perpendicular to us, or whatever you want to call it. Make it straight so it's just aligned. All right, now bring down our ground, we'll call it, to about where the L is for live. Now actually I just made a bad choice by making everything white, because now we can't see where it splits the letters. So what I'm going to do is go back into our text, make it a dark green for now. Don't worry, it's not going to be this color. I'm just so I can see the white solid. And let me see where it cuts off. So right where it hits the L or the O, I'm looking at the O. So that'll work for me right here. And now just expand our ground by dragging this all the way out. Okay, and I'll go about there is good for me. So now, in order to create a shadow, we need a light. So we're going to go into layer, new, light, right here. And I want a point light, intensity 100. That looks good, 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 fine. Color white, press OK. And now we got to tell After Effects what we want this light to affect. All right. So I don't want the light to hit my text, so we'll go into material options, cast shadows. So I want my text to cast shadows onto the ground, right? So I'll turn that on. I also want, I don't want it to accept shadows. So I'll turn that off. It doesn't really matter right now because there's nothing in front of my text. Except lights, I don't want that either. So I want my color to be the same throughout. And that'll all be good for there. Now let's come on down to our white solid. And we want to see the shadow, but we don't want the solid to be affected by the light. So what we're going to do is material options, cast shadows, that, that part doesn't matter. Except lights off. Except shadows on. Cool, good. We're doing good. Now we need to move the light around to get the shadow perfect, where we want the shadow to be. So just hit the light and hit P for the position of the light, and just kind of start to move your light around until we have the shadow that we want. So I'm going to kind of bring it up on the y-axis. And I'll bring the Z out this way. So our shadow sort of stretches to about right there. Now this is all a whatever kind of look you're trying to get. And I like this. That looks good to me. The other thing you want to do is kind of blur out, or I think it's called diffuse, our shadow. So you're going to diffuse it by going into your light options and shadow diffusion, right? So let's just turn that one up until it looks about right to you. So I'll just stop at 150. Cool. We're doing good. Now, as our text appears, you can see our shadows moving along. Now what we want to do is, with our white solid selected, hit your toggle switches so you can see your blend modes, and then let's blend it by going to multiply. So now we only see the shadow and we don't see our white solid. Okay, we're getting there, we're almost done. Layer, new, null object. And what we're going to do is start to move around our text. So hit P and make sure that this is also a 3D layer. So click on our position keyframe. We're going to keyframe it right here and add another keyframe right before 2live starts to move in. So right there, we're going to add another keyframe. And then this is where we're going to move our text. So let's go to right at the very end right there, and using our y-axis, bring it down. Oops, forgot we need to parent our text to the null. Sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself on this one. All right, so now that our text is parented to the null, when we move the null, it'll move the text, right? So bring it down right to where you see the shadow touch the letters, which is about right here. Cool? So it'll come in right there, the is right here. Add another keyframe. Find where the typography comes in, right about there. That's when it starts to move. And we are going to bring the typography down until the shadow touches our text, right about there. So now what's happening is, let's just kind of preview this. All of our text is at some point hitting the ground, right? Or sitting on the ground. So there, we've got another little cool part added to our motion graphic kinetic typography. And then, of course, what I'm going to do is select all the keyframes and easy ease them, because it just looks a lot better. Okay, this is beautiful. I'm loving it. All right, so check it out. Let's just get a quick RAM preview. All right, good. I love it. It's looking good. Now, let's just add a couple of style points onto this by adding a few little small details to this and have some fun. So let's make our text white, back to white. I don't really like this green, and it pops more with the white. And then let's add a little vignette. So just go into Layer, New, Solid, and make it black. And that'll be on top. It doesn't have to be in 3D. With our ellipse tool selected, just double click it, and that'll add a perfect ellipse onto our black solid. Go into your mask parameters, and let's just feather this one out a lot. 500 pixels should be good. And then hit subtract for our blend mode. And what that'll do is make the black edges on the side and really create our vignette look. And let's just expand the mask. 500 is way too much. Go 250. Go 300. Okay, looking better. Maybe I want it to be a little brighter in the middle. So what you can do is go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and add a curves adjustment to the layer. So just drag this curves down on the adjustment layer, turn up the curves a bit to about there, not too much, and then add another mask. So I'm gonna do this one on the top, kind of like that, and then just really feather the heck out of it. 300 is too much, sorry about that. 150. Cool, we're looking good here. Let's kind of zoom back in there and fit it. Okay, I like what we're seeing. Typography is the way to live. What else can we do? We can add a motion blur. So with your text selected, click on this little motion blur box to highlight it and let After Effects know you want to motion blur this layer, and also turn motion blur on for the whole composition. Now what that will do is as text is moving around quickly, it will blur it, as you can see right here. So it blurs this text composition, but not the speed of the text as it's coming on. And what I'm talking about here is the animations we made before should not be blurred. So let's see that. I'm just pressing the page down button. So see how the way is, it's not blurry at all. It's totally crisp lines. If you want that to be blurry, just double click to get inside of this layer, select all your layers, and motion blur these as well. Now that's just going to be a specific look that you may want to do, but I do not. So the only blurriness I want is when the text is moving around in terms of our composition. Because the next thing I'm going to do to end this one off, just like I did on our example, is make it disappear. So scale down. So press the S button to open up our scale parameter. And let's kind of end this one off by keyframing the scale. Go 3 frames ahead, 1, 2, 3. Scale it up to 105, and then go 8 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and go to 0. Of course, ease it, because it just looks sexy. And then let's see what we just did by pressing B and kind of closing up our composition as we RAM preview this. Okay, and you can see the motion blur really going into effect here. Now let's just preview our whole kinetic typography we just made. And guys, that is the whole effect. This is basic motion graphics for you on the simplest level. What we're going to, or at least what I'm going to do, is every Monday I'm going to show you some new motion graphics, try to get a little more advanced every time. It's just a great little tool to have in your visual effects arsenal that will make you become an epic editor. So now when someone asks you, hey, can you do a lyric video for me? You can make something pretty sick. Not just regular, text on a screen type thing, but now you can move it around, and that's what we call kinetic typography, animating text. Alright guys, that's the effect right there. Be sure to follow me on social media. I'm at MagicBard on Instagram and Facebook. If this tutorial helped you out at all, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications by clicking the little bell right next to the subscription button on YouTube. That way, whenever I put up a video, you'll be the first ones to see it and the first ones of your friends to try the new effect and impress everyone. So guys, that's the effect. Hope you enjoyed it. Love to see what you guys end up coming up with. And if there's any new effect that you guys want to learn, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll get to it ASAP. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.